Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. This is our second leg of our double header for tonight, and I have the pleasure of company of Sri Vijay Rajvaidya for the first time. For those of you who are living on the west coast of United States, you would know the India Currents magazine. It's free and it depends. Its business model is to based on the advertisement that you put on there. Anything Indian, anything South Asian, the go-to place first is India Currents magazine. I have myself referred to many people saying, you need this, go look up India Currents. It will be at your local grocery store and it is free. And that kind of spurs people on. So today we're going to meet Vijay Rajvaidya ji, who's the managing director of India Currents. Vijay ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. Good morning to everybody. Thank you very
much. Like me, Vijay ji, you've had a very interesting journey. You
Yes.
came to the United States about 40 years ago. You're an engineer, then you got a master's in management in MBA, and then you switched to journalism.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your journey thus far and how you came to be associated with India Currents, sir.
Yeah, it's a long one, and I'll try to briefly summarize that as briefly as I can. But it is interesting to me also when I look back, because when I was doing the engineering, my only aim, only objective was to be in the armed forces. That is what I had prepared for. And I went through the SSB and I got the thing, but I didn't get the job in the armed forces that I wanted, which is of the combatant. And I didn't get it. It was an engineer's job, didn't want it. Anyway, I worked in the steel industry in India, by the way, for a few years before I came to the United States. 𝙒𝙧 steel plant, to be sure, who know about this. But in the US, I came from grad school, and I came for aerospace technology, by the way, in 1982. But that time, if you remember, 2 years into Reagan era, Jimmy Carter had a bad time, 4 years, his thing, and aerospace industry was totally devastated, a lot of unemployment. And I had chosen a place to come here, which was the world capital, air capital of the world. That city alone in the Midwest was producing 17,000 aircrafts per year in the 70s. That was the capacity. And probably you've guessed that name. It was Wichita, Kansas.
Yes.
4 major producers were there. I came for that. It had a wonderful aerospace program there, and a lot of Indians coming from IISc who were, overqualified for the industry in India at that time. They were here. So yes, I came for that. Didn't work out. Aerospace was down. I switched to OR, operational research, finished this thing, joined in the steel industry, went around the country a little bit, including lived in a little bit Alabama or other states also, came to California and started working in a fab. So I started from fab. I take pride in telling people that I have worked through the technology stack right from the motherboard. Below the motherboard, if there is a steel casing, then I have worked in that too. So went from there to fab, the silicon over here. And then from there, I went into immediately, I started my second master's in electrical, and subsequently, of course, it went into MBA and all other degrees. But I went through the whole stack. I worked at Sun Microsystems, but I had quickly moved into marketing and sales. This is the segue to going towards journalism, because eventually that was the interest. So I used to be in quite a long time in Sun Microsystems, where I was the evangelist for Java technology all over the world. And if you Google my name, you'll find that everywhere in the talking about the Java technology and all. But then I went, from there into this. But I had varied interests, so that's why it was good. It was a good change. It has absorbed me since then. And just a little bit about India Currents also. Yes, it is a 35-year-old publication, monthly print magazine. That's what it used to be. And it had the revenue model that you described, Sri. But 2018, just before COVID, we decided to switch to online 100%. It was so fortunate for us because the rest of the industry tried to move to online in a hurry after COVID hit. But we had moved already. And believe me, even though we were plus 30 years old company. Going online was like starting a new company. Every
Yes.
process changed, everything changed, and fundamentally, the revenue model changed.
Yes.
Advertisement was gone to Facebook and Google's in those days, I mean,
Yes.
nowadays.
Yes.
So there
Yes.
was
Yes.
nothing left of that. So there were a lot of thinking, rethinking, redesigning, reinventing at the corporate level, the structure and everything. And thank God we stabilized, and you saw what happened to other publications when they
Yes. Yes.
COVID hit. We were ready for that. So
Wonderful.
yes, India current survived. So this is as brief as I can get in my journey.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
That's always good to know because, you know, people who are in Silicon Valley are not afraid to jump into the deep end of a
Wonderful.
pool and rediscover some talent that they did not know existed inside them.
Yes.
You and I are standing examples of this.
Absolutely.
Like a switch, I said, I'm going to do journalism from here on. And that's what I started out in 2015 end. And I've
Exactly.
not looked back.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
both of us are keen students of politics, and we've been watching what has been happening in
Yeah.
America,
Yeah.
where, I thought when Obama finished his term that for the next 20 years, it's going to be Democrats all the way because, what is there? I mean, this guy has really solidified the base for them. Surprise, surprise, Trump comes. And then Trump seemed to have done well. And now we have seen again the pendulum swing back towards the Democrats. However, viewers, if I say red, usually that associates with Republican Party, blue is Democratic Party. So in some ways, the red has, really put a fear of God in Democrats, especially in a state like California. For instance, the last undecided election for the House is actually my neighboring county, CA13, where it's 50.2 for the Republican, 49.8 for the Democratic candidate.
Close.
Manual counting, recounting, recounting, all that is going on. So today the number is 221 Republican, 213 Democrat, and the last one is the one that's I just talked about, CA13.
Goodness.
That's probably, yeah.
Wow.
My observation, sir, is over the last 4 or 5 elections, what I've noticed is that America is polarizing itself in that the rural areas in many states are turning red, and the urban areas are turning solid blue.
Yes.
But what I would say is a new trend that I'm seeing in California, where the Democrats will now start seeing red because the California state was still blue even in rural hinterlands. Now that is turning red. So what do you attribute this change?
So, a very good question. And because I came to this country way back and started from the real America, I would say that. Because later on I discovered that California is so different from America.
Yes.
The real heartland of America, that you can call it a different country as, it's so different. So I started from the place and I observed this, the people, the whites, Caucasians mostly, but other races also. Those Americans, their thinking is different, and it is that divide that is actually manifesting today. And Democrats did help enhance that gap. People think that it is the Republicans or the Reds who tried to polarize, or Trump is named for that. But I don't believe that. This struggle had started long time back. It started early on, and the difference was not between red and blue. It is the elites and non-elites. This was happening for a long time. All that happened is that by the time Obama came in, it was accentuated to the extent that they finally said that, look, this is the guy who speaks my language, gives me a simple line, says, make America great again. Okay, very simple line, and that's what I'm going to follow. And to counter that, I'll give you one example. Hillary Clinton, when she went to some place in Illinois or somewhere in the coal mining area, and I think, and I'm not accurately remembering her statement, but it amounted to saying that you guys are going to lose the job because coal mining is bad and this is bad for environment. And no, you're not going to have the job. So here was the attitude, I thought. It was true that always the old economic activity switches and gives way to new way of doing things. This is a law. This is a nature. But is that what you wanted to communicate? It looked like you were saying that I know best for you, and that's what's going to happen. Actually, that doesn't happen at all that way. Whenever there is a switch in the economic activity, you find an alternate employment for the people. But here you are saying that no, you're going to be out. Okay? So even if coal mining was going to go down, probably it is not going to happen in one moment by flipping the switch off. It will gradually go down. A lot of automation will happen also. Their health, because of their health, taking care of the health, you will have a lot of other ways of mining, little bit of coal, what you're doing, and slowly you will shut it down. But nothing was explained, it seems like. And they went what you call red. So this thing was happening. What was lacking was a person who they could identify with. Trump, with all his crudeness and rudeness and whatever, was actually communicating with them, honestly. So that divide happened there, and this came as a catalyst to do that. So that is the part. In California, you mentioned, I'm very happy because California has gone locally red occasionally. Pete Wilson time, Governor Pete Wilson, and then Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger was very centrist, by the way. So most of the time, these were centrist leaders. They were not so extreme on the left or right. But now what I'm seeing is, and do you want me to continue to comment on this current election that you mentioned, I think, in your question?
Yes. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You were expecting a tsunami. And before I explain about the results, of this, or try to give you my opinion about the results, I would like to say that Indians, particularly Indian Americans, they voted Democrat by tradition from long time. But they had started switching also because they were finding that the Democrat Party, when it was listening to its own left wing coming from maybe Seattle or Washington State or some other places also, Illinois also, New York also, they were not comfortable. They were not feeling comfortable about that. So it was taking a different shape. And overall, the people were shifting towards Republican. And if the tsunami did not happen, first of all, whether it did not happen should be the indication of Republican not winning in future, or should it be indication that Joe Biden had been successful now in stopping Reds forever coming back, or for a long time, if not forever? Nothing of that sort. I think I can conclude by that. If you look at California, which was a solid blue state, this state has given that signal. Although it did not sweep, it did not win tsunami, and it did not get the tsunami. And I attribute it to Trump's lack of leadership in this time. The way he has kind of affected the party, it is having that effect right now. Once that effect goes, there are very good names. Actually, on both sides, Democrat sides, the good leaders are mostly on the center, as a matter of fact, not the extreme left. And if you look at the Republican side also, there are pretty good leadership options are there, which are also towards the center. And eventually, this is what is going to happen. I mean, the person, little bit of right of the center or a little bit of left of the center. That's what the real play happens. So this is nothing of, tsunami happening or not happening or deep polarization. I am a little bit still observing. Deep polarization is, I think it's a temporary phenomenon. It's happening right now. Obama, by chance, was the breaking point because of Trump, not because of Obama. You understand? Obama was not the factor, the Trump was the factor. So that's in brief my explanation about, or my observation about what's happening here.
Now, Thank you for that. See, Kamala Harris is, like you and I, died in the blue Democrat who's grown up in the Valley. Uh, Her parents were from Berkeley. For some time she was not here, but she came back. Her political career has been all around San Francisco area. Thus far, somehow she has been made to look like a caricature.
Hmm.
Whereas she's a pretty capable person as a
Yes,
district
yes,
attorney
yeah,
of
yes,
San
yes,
Francisco, as well as the
yes,
attorney general for
yes,
the state of California. She has done some good work.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
I mean, that's how she became a senator in the first place, because that is the
yeah,
hardest step to
yeah,
transition from state
yeah,
politics to central politics.
yes.
Why do you think this characterization is happening, or rather, character assassination is happening of Kamala Harris, in your opinion?
You know, I honestly, I have given before I used to observe her before she became vice president a lot more than I did afterward. For the simple reason why that what motivated me to do this was Kamala Harris's failure to identify with Indian Americans. We are in
Yes.
California, so we try to engage with the people who have Indian American connection, little bit Indian connection, and we try to kind of get their views and opinions. And we had some conversations with her too around before election. I think we did have one interview. But regardless, Kamala Harris had been more in the African American community from her father's side and less with the Indian community. That is one thing. Second, by the way, and this is a good thing about Kamala Harris is, and the successes and things that you attributed to her are, I think, because of that she also is from the middle of the Democrat in the spectrum, political spectrum. She is not of any extreme views. So right now she is under pressure from both sides, as I speculate. I think a lot about it, that what's happening, why is she so much hemmed in? So don't know about what is happening from the Biden side or the people from that side of the country. She is from West Coast, but I at least understand that the extreme left side of Democratic Party is not very much in tune with her. So that internal political pressure she is facing, and it has to manifest someday. She has to come out because she was active. So she has to get to that level. And 2 years have passed. She has to prepare for the election also. Because if nothing else, at least in the normal course, she will again we expect her to be again the vice presidential candidate. And she has to put that standing out there. So yes, that's my understanding about it.
So she's, I think, in my opinion, at a crossroads. If you noticed, last couple of weeks, there was one article in The Hill that kind of stirred the pot a little bit, because it said that Gavin Newsom is going to be the next anointed successor for the Democratic Party.
Yes,
Again,
yes,
he is
yes,
governor of California. All it was he survived the recall, and then he comes back and wins big. Now, and he didn't do too badly as a governor during the COVID crisis.
Yes.
Let's just say that he hasn't done anything bad, at least as a governor. Now, someone who has done perhaps even more, because if you look at the meteoric rise that Kamala Harris has had, suddenly now people are saying, no, she has to go. Gavin Newsom is coming in. I'm wondering, see, Gavin Newsom is related to Nancy Pelosi by a marriage, not by birth, but by a marriage, right? Do you think? See, you know this thing much closer than I do, Vijayji. You're the local person. You're editing a local magazine. You probably have a closer beat on what's happening in the Democratic Party. Do you think Nancy Pelosi is trying to make Gavin Newsom her political successor?
So you did say the right thing, that there is a relation over here, and that is at the family level. So obviously there has to be some kind of meeting of views and thoughts and opportunities to be together and exchange views and be in sync with each other, which brings political comfort. That political comfort is very important when you're working with other people in the party. But the other thing is that Nancy is a very much rooted, anchored in the center. She is not listening, and she's very effective, by the way. I've seen her, if you recall, the times from when W. Bush was the president, and she was a speaker. First time I wrote to her at the time when the first time got elected as a speaker of the. So many things I wrote to her, as a matter of fact, at that time, Iraq war time and all that. But Nancy, what I gathered from all that interaction is that she's a very rooted in the center. And I believe that this is all that comfort happening. And Kamala Harris is a lot of smooth equations when this transition, which govern the transitions of this kind. Kamala Harris kind of disturbs that smoothness, that flow, that streamlined flow. Because as you mentioned yourself, a little bit of junior, meteoric rise, right? And same estate, and you worked under the same person. Other person, very charismatic, mainstream person. So now how do we, this is like a turbulence, within that little thing is not smooth, and things are not moving smoothly. This is turbulence. So that turbulence is going to impact, guess who? I mean, whoever has less following. And I believe Kamala might be concerned about that at this time. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I think she was talented. I think Obama described her as the most beautiful attorney general or something like that. And not only that, I mean, she's a pretty brainy person. See, the problem what I have is, where did that brain part go? Why is this person being, caricatured as if, she's dumb and this and that? And she also put sometimes, that pressure is telling on her when she comes on some of the interviews where she's on the spot and so on and so forth. It's unfortunate. The person, what you are seeing on the television screen is not Kamala Harris. She's something else, much more warm and engaging. And also, Vijay, to the point that you said about the Indian Americans shifting away from the Democrats, one saw that this time there was Diwali parties at the vice president's house. There was a Diwali party at the president's house. This is something that was, maybe it was done quietly, but this time it was like an all-out thing that we are with you. You are our vote bank. There was a lot of messaging that was going on. So the Democratic Party is now concerned that the Indian American, average Indian American, is moving away from the party. Right? But the Republicans are, how are they? I mean, they haven't exactly been saying, okay, come to us, welcoming us or anything like that. How do you see, what should an Indian American do if it comes to casting a ballot? I am an independent, so I have no problem. I just look at the issues and vote. So I don't have a vested interest here or there. But how do you think an Indian American should approach this whole thing?
So a few things I will have to go back and forth. So
go ahead.
First of all, first comment about your independent nature of your, you being independent politically. I call that, similarly myself, I call centrist. So I think it is a little bit interchangeable with independent.
True.
Because, centrist could be a little bit on the right or a little bit on the left, depending upon, what relationships and what other policies and other things you become important in your decision while voting. So that's how it is. Second comment I want to make about Kamala Harris thing is vis-a-vis the current president. When a VP comes into picture, I have observed that since the times of, I would say, Nixon, prior to Nixon, as a matter of fact, I remember, Nixon, at least Nixon time, that the conduct of the vice president is very strongly influenced by the White House dynamic. And currently, I am thinking there are so many things that are not flowing smoothly between this White House, within the White House, that administration part, core part. And in this administration, I also have a strong feeling that State Department and Pentagon and CIA, these three organs also are a little bit pulling in their directions. They were doing it actually during the campaign itself. The spokespersons in those areas, who eventually, some of them became high officials in the departments, they were pulling in different directions. So all this put together, also puts pressure on Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris's experience was not of that kind. It was in the state. So she may be at sea. She's very smart. So probably this is 2 years, probably she has trained or something. And as I said, another factor was the party pressure, the political pressure. So that is that. Coming to Indians about how they see and how they feel. Indians, when we observe Indians over here in California, it's very different than the way whatever few Indians live in the hinterland of America. So, but because most of us live in the East Coast, on the West Coast, or maybe a little bit in Dallas and Houston area, you can call, and Chicago also. But this is where we are concentrated and focused. So our decisions are influenced by obviously the economy, the first thing, security of the, as a different race. Ultimately it comes down to that you look different. So how are you treated? Indians are pretty fortunate in that respect, but some of the pressures that other ethnicities have faced, Indians do not face because they have a very good image. Actually, it is more than the true image, but yeah, there's a very good image. Image is that we are very 100% law-abiding and in the top echelons of the economic activity, intellectually up there, and every thing, elites, all these things are there. Although the fact remains that there is a sizable number of Indians are illegal immigrants over here, by the way. This fact, we wrote an article about this, that look, there is a model minority with us, but there is some segment over there which is also not really right. But then again, you can call it exception. It is becoming bigger though, by the way, that exception. But yes, the Indian Americans go in that direction. And it seems like, particularly with the economic activity, and I'm not even talking about this woke thing that happened later on, which many of us have felt. I have personally also felt that has gone a little too far. It is really becoming the circle kind of thing, and the opposite of yourself when you talk of freedom to such an extent that you become autocratic at one moment and you don't even realize that you have become autocratic. So that thing is happening over there, and if you leave it aside itself, our focus more mainly on these areas, how the ethnicity, our ethnic community is treated overall, and what is our economic opportunities in this place. That's what determines mostly. And as you said, we are still quite a bit blue because, first of all, the urban centers are blue, and then still they my generation at least, who came at that time, they stick to what they were seeing at that time. It was a different Republican Party at that time, So yeah, those are basically the reasons.
Now, last question before we wrap up today's show. Time has just flown. 28 minutes already into the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How, in terms of leadership, the Democrats now have, I think, a clear alternative to Donald Trump, which is, in my opinion, Ron DeSantis of Florida.
Yes.
And both have compelling stories.
Yes,
Donald Trump has made his money as a real estate mogul. He has some track record to play with, saying that in my 4 years, there was not a single war that America entered. There was, there was no conflict. Whereas in Biden's thing is, there's a very good contrast that he can paint. But for that, he needs to get the nomination of the Republican Party. Ron DeSantis has an equally compelling story. He has won Florida big, just like Gavin Newsom did in California. He has won the state of Florida big. He has converted the entire state of Florida into red, which is an achievement. Even the city, Miami-Dade,
yes,
red. First time in like 30, 40 years. So things do change, given time. Now, Ron DeSantis also has a compelling story that his wife is a cancer survivor. And that kind of adds to the family thing, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that now the Republicans have a real choice in terms of who they should put up for the president? What are your thoughts?
So we talked about this a little bit internally here, and you are absolutely right that he comes out pretty strong. And if we were still doubtful about it, then Trump's statement itself by calling him with some kind of derogatory remark or something. It kind of confirms that yes, he is being seen as a rival to Trump. But again, what I am feeling, that Republican Party has a lot more to offer than just Ron from Florida. He has limitations, as you pointed out. He may be able to carry quite a big swath of states which are similar in thinking, but still, overall, countrywide, it will be difficult. And there will be strong candidates. There are some names who have not, yet come forward, but I hope they do that in Republican Party, which are towards the center. Some were the disappointments from the older time. They are waylaid, I think. I mean, there was Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, and all these people are kind of waylaid. I don't know where that New Jersey governor, what is his name?
Chris Christie.
Oh, Chris Christie. Okay. Yeah, I used to kind of have some hopes from Chris Christie also, and I don't know where he was. He was good in articulating some of the thoughts, but haven't seen him much anymore. Probably he has given up. So I don't think it will be shoe-in for Ron. You're absolutely right about it. And getting the nomination, it will be tough. And first of all, he is a master wrecker. You have a big wrecking ball right next to you, sitting in Florida itself, to impact you. Because, mind you, in this election, there was nothing to decide between Trump or Ron, the current election that we saw, right? It was not the decision between these two candidates. But when it comes to Republican primary, there will be a decision in Florida between these two guys. So that itself will be giving a lot of, hard feelings.
Both live in Florida. We forget that. So Donald Trump calls Florida his residence.
So it is going to have an impact. It's going to have. But one point I want to mention from the last segment of our conversation, there's one more thing that is impacting the Indian Americans going forward, and that is actually, I should say two things: the way the left parties, the left fringe of Democratic Party has taken position against India, or Indian government, which looks like against India now, and then it is becoming more and more something kind of a Hindu phobia coming out of that. That is going to affect a lot of Indians, and couple it with some of the things in foreign policy of Blinken. I call it foreign policy of Blinken because I doubt if there is a White House leadership in there. So not of Biden, but Blinken's. That is also causing many Indians to feel a little bit moving away from the positions of this Democratic Party. They are moving towards center. That's what's happening. They're not going the other way around. They're moving to the center. So yes, and in this, the very strange thing is that the factor leading to this is also the left fringe of the Democratic Party. There are many Indians there. So yes, the Indians are doing that too. So, well, it's a little bit of complex equation.
Absolutely. And in our upcoming conversations, we're going to take a look at some of the stands taken by what they call as progressives, the squad, their positions, why they get into a tangled mess after some time. All these things we'll discuss in our future discussions. But I think today was the first time we had Vijay on our channel, and it was a great talk. And viewers, we are trying to kind of expand your horizons a little bit, try to show you, put a mirror, shine the torchlight on how US politics works, what happens, the pulls and pressures, who is, pulling the strings in the back, all those things. So stay tuned with us, and please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. And Vijayji, wonderful, wonderful time I had talking to you, sir. You articulated a lot of things that perhaps many viewers are coming to know for the first time. See, India has now become very curious because India also is beginning to find itself being the center of attention on a world stage. G20 India is going to be hosting. So it helps to understand how the world's largest democracy looks at the world's strong, most powerful democracy. Thank you very much, sir. We'll be back again with you talking about various things. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you so much.